Back to the situation in Russia, though, President Biden has signed an executive order imposing sanctions that target the breakaway regions in Ukraine. This is in response, of course, to Putin's choosing to recognize the regions as independent and sending his troops in those regions now. Come in, Mike Huckabee, former governor of Arkansas. Governor, great to see you. We haven't seen the president, by the way, on camera since Friday. The most we've gotten is a tweet that he sent out. When is he going to address the nation on this?
Well, obviously, he's holding himself for the State of the Union. You open this show with some Beatles music. Let me give you 3 Beatles tunes that kind of describe Joe Biden right now. Nowhere Man, Tax Man, and I'm a Loser. Ooh. This is a guy who is bet wrong on virtually everything he has done. The first day in office, he kills the XL pipeline. And what does that mean? It means that we go from energy independence to energy dependence all over again, and everybody's feeling it at the pump and to heat and cool their cars or to travel. I hope Republicans are smart enough to put together the message this year that reminds people that we were energy dependent and we were exporting energy, which is what we ought to be doing now. And if he's going to do an executive order, the first thing he ought to do is say, we're opening back up for the energy business.
Well, let's talk about who we are seeing, and that's Kamala Harris. We saw her last weekend in Europe talking to her allies. I didn't know she was an expert in German NATO affairs, but apparently she's a quick learner. What does that tell you about the way things are being run by this White House dealing with this crisis?
It was very painful to watch Kamala Harris in that setting. It was apparent she didn't really have a message. She didn't know what she was talking about. There was no command of the issues. It was, as some have described it, word salad. And that's sad what we're presenting. I mean, we'd have been better off sending Hunter Biden over there to talk. He knows Ukraine real well. He's an expert on energy in Ukraine. He would at least have some inside knowledge that Kamala Harris obviously did not possess.
Well, I want to bring back the president certainly has spoken out last week. He was talking a lot about this. And then he had a couple of weeks ago, he had what many people say was a gaffe about exactly what we should do if the Russians do certain things. He mentioned that phrase minor incursion into Ukraine. Let me just roll that tape and get your reaction.
It's one thing if it's a minor incursion and then we end up having a fight about what to do and not do, et cetera. But if they actually do what they're capable of doing with the force amassed on the border, it is going to be a disaster for Russia if they further invade Ukraine. I'm not so sure he is certain what he's going to do. My guess is he will move in. He has to do something.
He has to do something, and minor incursion. Is that what we're seeing now? I mean, is Putin sort of taking a cue from President Biden in terms of doing what could be described by some as a minor incursion?
David, never forget the words of Joseph Stalin, who was the mentor to Vladimir Putin. He said, when you're going to advance against your enemy, you stick your bayonet forward, and if you feel mush, you keep going. If you hit steel, you stop and retreat. Well, what is Putin hitting? Mush, because Joe Biden has had weeks to prepare for a reaction to what Putin is currently doing. It's not like this just happened last night and it caught everybody off guard. It takes a while to amass a couple of 100,000 troops. Yeah. And so the fact that we don't know yet what we're going to do, we haven't announced anything all that specific, it is just incredible. I hope people stop and catch their breath over that.
Well, next Tuesday, you already mentioned, by the way, the need to get energy production moving in this country. And of course, so much of what this administration has done has been to thwart energy production here. And that, many say, has kind of led to the problems that we're now suffering with energy prices. Do you think the president is going to address this at all on Tuesday in his State of the Union?
No, I think he will tell us what a great job he's doing, how wonderful the country is moving along. And honestly, David, every speech he gives, it's like he's living in a different reality than the working class people of America who are struggling. And so, no, I don't think he's going to acknowledge that what he did was a screw up. I think he's going to push harder and say we've got to get to green energy. Yeah, it's going to be painful and difficult, but we're going to do it. And so your car is going to be running by a solar panel on the hood of the car before the end of the year. This is just a total divorce from reality, and it's tragic. Forget the partisanship. Yes, I'm a partisan. I'm not going to deny that. But this is my country, and I want to see us do well. I want every person to do well. And they were doing better until Joe Biden took office, and now they're not doing so well. And that hurts all of us.
Governor Mike Huckabee, great to see you, Governor. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you.